Welcome back to the Social Seller Podcast with Conor Paulsen, where we interview the world's highest quality communicators, professionals, business owners, creatives, and everything in between. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're a high quality communicator, there's a good chance you're living a lot happier life, but you're also bringing those opportunities into your life almost like a magnet. My guarantee is that on this show, we only interview people that I, one, look up to, and two, that I know are going to continue to kill the game for years to come, and I want to make sure they're on your radar. But what I've learned is by asking the best questions, we get the best responses, and that's what the highest quality communicators, our social sellers, are all about. Let's hop inside to the Social Seller Podcast. How is it going? Welcome back to the Social Seller Live with Conor Paulsen. Today we have a special guest, and this is the first episode out of every episode we've ever done, and this is something brand new. We have Bryan Temin on, not only an expert in hospitality, but being able to apply that as a consultant for some time, but now being able to apply that to the B2B realm, and not only helping companies, small, medium, large, turn their online sales channels really on like some accelerated level. But the coolest part in my mind is that he's also talking with the clients. And so having that internal dialogue with who he's working with, and then going out and practicing it and having to fulfill and having to hit those metrics, and seeing that over the last year with COVID and everything else, that this online selling environment has changed so much in how we interact. So before I hand it off to Bryan, Bryan Temin was born and raised in New Jersey. Now I know you have a degree in logistics, materials, and supply chain from the Ohio State University, right? Both Big Ten alumni. And I know you spent years in what I call A1 hospitality. And I would love for you to kind of talk a little bit about what that experience looks like, and how creating an experience and a real relationship and caring and listening creates a whole nother realm of relationship. And I know today you are on the Uptown creation team almost at a year and a half. So excited. This is why today is such a milestone, because we get to bring our first person from Uptown, and you are an absolute rock star, an expert in this field. And so it only made sense to bring you in. Bryan, thank you for being here. Did I leave out anything on kind of your story? Because I'm just pumped. I want to get started and talk some value.
No, I think you checked all the boxes. Really, really good.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Bryan, what part of Jersey did you grow up in again?
Yeah, Central Jersey. So East Brunswick, kind of by Rutgers. So right there.
Beautiful. And then you're a Buckeye. You always, I went to the University of Iowa, and you guys seem to beat us more often or more frequently than we'd beat you in the notable big sports. So want to hop in though. It's not every day, and I can't think of many people that had a career in hospitality. And from what I understand, it was in the food and beverage to some degree. Could you explain what that was? How old were you, and what did your day-to-day life look like? What did you kind of take away from your experience?
Yeah, sure thing. So, we'll start when I'm 14, when everybody gets their first job, or when most people get their first job. I was delivering pizzas around the neighborhood, and that's kind of how I got into the restaurant industry. I just like the people that were there. There's a lot of honesty there, a lot of guards down and stuff like that. And I just love the energy. Everything's so fast. And then that's what I wanted to do when I got out of school. I went for logistics and supply chain. I didn't really know where that was going to take me. It just sounded pretty fancy. I knew I wanted to end up in restaurants. So after school, I got a job as a food runner. So that's the person that runs the food to the tables. So I got to see. I did that at a really big restaurant, and got to see a lot of the operations behind that. And I've always kind of been into that kind of stuff. And then I got this other job at a David Burke restaurant. David Burke is, well-known restaurateur. I got a bunch of restaurants in the city. He opened one up in South Orange, New Jersey, 15 minutes away from where I live. I started as an administrative assistant, and you can think of this place as the startup of restaurants. There's not a whole lot in place, not a whole lot of people. I was an administrative assistant, which also made me the marketing assistant, which also made me the janitor, which also made me the handyman, which also made me the server, the bartender, all that, which was great. And then, by a combination of luck and skill, I found myself as the assistant general manager at this place, and really working with a lot of the staff and a lot of the people. And we were at a country club, so there were members involved in this, and it's not just kind kind of one-off people coming to check out the local spot. It's the same people coming back over and over again, and there's certain things that you have to establish relationships with these people, understand what they like, understand what they don't like, understand where they like to sit, who they hang out with, and that was kind of where I got my customer-facing experience from, and it made the transition from hospitality to, after COVID hit, and I can't go back to work, got to find something new. It made this transition a whole lot smoother. And I felt like I was built for this. So that's kind of where my hospitality folds into what makes me who I am today.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Bryan, because you hit on so many big points. Personally, I know this helped me working in retail, and I worked as a bartender for some time. And like those cliche terms of you have to work it so you have a respect for it. I agree. And then you also have to care with your customers. And the customer's almost always going to be right? And you learn that in retail and these types of things. What I think is awesome is it also allows us to have those human-to-human, those personalized connections. And you start to realize that us humans, we like to think we're so different, but we do have very similar behaviors. And if we can just create a consistent quality experience, it makes it easier for us and for them. And the other point that I want to make is I see a lot of business owners, every age range, that starts to believe and maybe has found some success, that starts to view themselves as the expert and doesn't listen to other ideas or doesn't keep their eyes for kind of what's on the horizon. What should I be looking at, 6 months, 12 months from today? And where is my company at today? Is it set up for 3 years from today? Mm-hmm. And I think being able to have those personal connections with your clients, regardless of what level or role you're at within the organization, makes all the difference. Now, a big part of what your role is and why you have so much success, and I would go as far as saying you're top 1% in the world for knowing how to leverage Sales Navigator, Recruiter, and how to create strategies, not for one company, not for one professional, but for hundreds, right? And you've done this successfully. So I think there's this magic. And I know here in just a little bit, we talked about in the waiting room before this, that you're going to talk about what the number one mistake professionals are making online, or anyone that's trying to have a professional presence online that you're seeing, and what the numbers are also telling you, working with so many clients and industries. Now, to hop into your work with LinkedIn. Now, I know you're using a handful of strategies, right? It's not just LinkedIn. It's some one-on-one outreach through LinkedIn, in-mail outreach, and then it can be emails and a combination. What excites you just in general with everything you're seeing in the B2B online realm and the direction we're headed? And just to kind of give it a time-bound, make it a time-bound statement, we'll say like 12 months. If we were to say August of 2022, with the direction you see coming out of COVID, what are you the most excited for?
I think just seeing this cosmic shift from the seller's environment where, you have all the deliverables, you have all the numbers involved with what your work can provide and that kind of thing. And we're seeing this shift now to the social seller, the person who is, making themselves trusted before, even making a sale. It doesn't have to be about a sale. It has to be about developing a relationship. And we're seeing that more and more, because as more businesses go online, there's more competition than there was when there were, a lot more brick and mortar kind of volume sales. So that's kind of the big shift that I see, and that's kind of what's been the driver for our work. And I know we're going to get to, what a lot of people make the mistake on, but I can't not say it. People, just don't be lame when you're reaching out to somebody, because you see a lot of robotic language, great to connect. I hope all is well. I hope you're doing well during this time. Nobody's going to walk up to me and say that in a coffee shop. Nobody's going to do that. And I think that people want to be spoken to like that when they're being sold, or when they're, being marketed to, or something like that. So, hope that answered your question.
You did. And I love what you're saying. Don't be lame, right? And it's just marketing 101. Before I even got into marketing classes in business school, it was put yourself in the shoes of the person you're trying to attract, right? And once you start doing that, you filter out a lot of the inefficiencies in our life. Like, dang, I wouldn't respond to that. I wouldn't respond to that subject, line in an email. Now, One thing that I do want to dive in here is you explain social selling. And social selling, what LinkedIn calls buyer first selling, Brian Tracy's been talking about for decades, and certain sales leaders. Now, it's nothing new, but it's becoming so much more important, right? And we term it social selling. I think that's where we're getting so much momentum on YouTube and everywhere else. What you had said, Bryan, is that a part of not being lame is using the resources that are already out there and that we have access to, and that we should almost be creating the relationship before we've even interacted or engaged with them, right? So I'm curious, would you say that this is correct, that if we're social selling effectively, we should be researching and getting to understand who that individual is on a level personally and professionally and really where the organization's at, right? So what could that look like? And that social selling, it sounds like, doesn't just start before that interaction and getting to understand, are they in a place where we could really provide value? Whether I'm a coach, a consultant, a paid speaker, it doesn't matter. And when you reach out like that, now, not only is it personalized, you're speaking their language. And I think that's the magic. But social selling continues to carry in once you've started the interaction, right? Mm-hmm. And again, this is me putting my sales hat on, but it's through qualifying, right? Can you afford our clients' rates? Are you looking to hire a coach, consultant, hire on a B2B sales development team in the next 60 to 90 days, right? Those qualifiers. Social selling means that it's still just this casual, or not casual, it's a purposeful conversation, but very social in the sense of asking the right questions, being personalized. And what we're starting to learn too, Bryan, and I'm learning this from you and Conzo, is that it also applies on the back end and how follow-up. And so it's exciting that you mentioned this because you're the one seeing the numbers. You're the one interacting, with the clients, helping them get results. What is the number one mistake you see social sellers making today?
I see social sellers trying to have one remedy to what must be a million different problems. So they'll think to themselves, and they're coming around this way. Thank God. We got to go pain point first. What do we want to solve? How do we make it about them, not about us? People are starting to come around to that. But then doing the necessary research beforehand for each one. So let's say I want to reach out to the COO at a SaaS company that just got funding. I want to know that they got funding, and I want to be able to talk about that, and I want to be able to say, with this influx of funding, do you, and let's say I'm working at an accounting firm, I'm an accounting firm salesperson, with this funding, there might be some transactions that are happening down the line, or you'll want to bring in somebody for more flexible costs when doing your financial reporting, and you don't want to hire in-house, at least right now, somebody that's going to scale with you. Understanding all those things when you reach out. So not just having a one-size-fits-all kind of research approach, and going beyond just saying, what's the pain point that I have to solve here? And being like, what's the pain point that I have to solve for this specific company? And how is the person that I'm going to be reaching out to going to be receiving that?
And what numbers are the most important? I know you're very advanced with it, and you're tracking every action you're taking when you're doing outreach for clients. Now, what would you say are there some metrics that for someone that might be new to Sales Navigator or a recruiter or doing this type of B2B outreach, right? They want more customers, regardless of industry or space, right? Because what we're talking about when you use social selling effectively or buyer first selling, it's that it doesn't really matter. It's human to human connecting, just like you and me are right now, right? But before we can get on this call, we have to create that relationship. So you're teaching us, Bryan, how to use the assets we have in our tool belt, right? And in doing it, we might not have had a lot of this, 3 years ago. And I think that's why it's exciting, and it can really set up and create uncommon experiences, right? How do we create uncommon experiences in human interactions? You have to fulfill in uncommon ways, right? And really it's just being personalized, like you're saying. I love that. Now, I took that down the rabbit hole, and I'm going to try to bring it back, Bryan, to the question.
Okay, let's stay down the rabbit hole, because I do want to talk.
Yeah, please do.
And you've kind of been you've been inching towards this, and now I want to pounce. So right now we could talk about like multi-channel approach, you know? And then, so what, another big benefit of selling and social selling right now is that you have 7 different platforms and you can go vet out. You know, let's say you want to reach out to somebody on LinkedIn. They don't look that active on LinkedIn, but you find them on Instagram. You know, you like their stuff on Instagram. You comment on their stuff on Instagram. You know, you hit them up via, you know, if you do connect with them on LinkedIn, you also can check out their email, shoot them an email and be like, hey, I love the stuff that you're doing on Instagram. You know, I've been dying to talk about this idea, and this idea. I think you'd be the perfect person to talk to it about. And, you know, using everything that's at your disposal. I was talking about the funding example. You know, you see you got funding on Crunchbase, you check out their Instagram profile, you find somebody who's following the Instagram profile that's part of the company, you connect with them on LinkedIn, and you have so many different stakes in so many different pieces of land that you're just going to naturally show up as somebody who really cares about the company of the person that you're reaching out to and potentially the person that you're reaching out to.
How do you get that across, that you care about someone in messaging? When people are getting so many automated messages that I don't even check there's times that when I look at my LinkedIn and like inbox, I'm just kind of annoyed. And so I try to put it off, right? But how do you get through to that when, I kid you not, it seems like 9 out of 10 companies that are trying to do what we're talking about are still using whatever version of automation, right? Whether it's branded AI, whether there's anything in between. But yeah, how do you stand out and create that personalized experience?
I'll tell you what, brother, this is definitely the hardest part of the job. This is the hardest part. Targeting is easier, but messaging and finding a way to stand out in all the noise when you know that you're going to be reaching out to somebody that also has 10 messages in their inbox, that's tough. And the thing that we've realized, especially over the last 6 months, go ahead and sell the thing. You know, be upfront with what you're reaching out about, but do so in a way where it's like, there don't have to be action items right now. You don't have to buy anything. Let's just talk about it, you know, because I did my research and I was looking up this, and this, and I think that you'd be the perfect person for this. This is what I do, and I would love to do it with you, but if now's not the right time, let's just talk, because I think we could have a really good conversation. And we'll make it sexier language than that, of course, but that's like the idea to go with. People want to be sold. No, people want to buy, but they don't want to be sold. That's what Chris was telling me yesterday.
It's spot on. And it's, how do you create, again, it comes down to the experience, right? Because when it's personalized, think of like your coffee shop example, or going into the bar and making a friend. And if that's ever going to potentially turn into a professional, you know, working relationship where we might be able to help each other, it usually isn't going to start out with some cliche, you know, congrats on the new position. You know, I love the features, but we're talking strategy here. It's strategy to really create a sustainable sales strategy and sales system. And I think that's the other thing. This isn't appealing to people that are looking for the 90-day, I want to create a sales pipeline, like get rich quick kind of thing, right? These are for the professionals that believe, I want to build a real foundation, build a real sales pipeline. And I notice, and I realize that we're going through this online change in eras. And I think it's exciting. I think to some that if they're stubborn and don't want to adopt some of these practices, that it could become intimidating. But I think what we're talking about is, it doesn't necessarily fully focus on LinkedIn. Like you're saying, this doesn't fully focus on a single social platform. We're talking strategy and how to find these opportunities and identify, are they the right fit, in so many more levels than I think, you know, even us at Uptown Creation a few years ago were doing. We didn't know this. And so it's exciting to kind of bring this back. And I see we will start up the Q&A here in like 10 minutes or so, just as we get through some of these, because I see some awesome questions coming through that we will bring up here. So keep the questions coming in and we will answer those. Bryan, was there anything else that I didn't ask on this topic that you think should be addressed before we move on?
Not that I can think of, but you definitely got the engines going. I also didn't know there was a Q&A, so throw a bunch of surprises at me. It's fantastic.
Normally we wouldn't, but we're getting so many questions that are coming in that I think it makes sense. And the other exciting part for me, guys, is that I don't get to interact with Bryan as much as I would like. We get along like no other, but you're the magic on the other side of the company, right? So You're the magic that gets results. My job is to bring incredible people that are the right fit, that we know we can get results in the door. So I'm learning at the same time. What are just the top 2 or 3 ways that you can maximize your online professional brand? Or let's say you are doing some type of LinkedIn outreach, or you're considering it. Are there things that you can be doing on the side that really accelerate those results? Now, I know every marketer is going to list 100 different things they say is top priority. I'm not asking the marketer. I'm talking to the person that I know is just going to say it the way it is. In your eyes, what are the top 2 to 3 ways to accelerate results?
Okay, number 1, get rid of anything on your LinkedIn profile, anything on your Instagram profile, anything that even sounds remotely salesy. And I'll give you an example that people probably see all the time on LinkedIn. Me and Chris talk about this all the time. We've said this out loud before. Anybody who puts "I help X with Y" in their LinkedIn profile, they're going to try and sell you on something once they connect with you. And, there's not a whole lot of, relationship building that goes on with that when you only know somebody that you're connected with by what they help people with. So go ahead and make your profile about yourself, and then where you can get that, where you can kind of engage with people is comment on their stuff, and instead of saying "I help blank with blank," go out and find people that are asking questions on in their posts, anywhere, and answer those questions and actually help X with Y. In a way that's not just self-serving. It's a way that you're serving your community, you're serving your industry, stuff like that. I'm about to get a call here. Sorry. Okay. Number 2, I'll say it again. Don't be lame. Don't use contractions is what I'm trying to say. Don't say "I am a." Say "I'm a." Speak how you would speak, and that's how you can kind of, with your direct outreach, just say it as if a friend was reaching out to you. You don't have to give a whole page about case studies that you have and things like that. Just if you target correctly and you reach out looking to have a conversation in a way that's going to benefit them and also benefit you potentially, then it shouldn't take that page-long thing. You shouldn't have to talk people into wanting to talk with you. You should make it like, this would be a great conversation for both of us. So that's number 2. I don't have a third thing to tell you.
You kind of gave us 3 when you broke them down. Part 1 kind of had 2, right? And I think to carry on this, right, it's how do we create a human experience? Just like you're saying, it's a friend to friend, it's a beer to beer kind of conversation, a wine glass to wine glass, or it's in the coffee shop kind of thing. How do you bump in? And I know there's times that you've tested purposefully adding grammatical mistakes to make it, and very subtle ones, right, to almost make it that much more human, and constantly testing what does that look like, how do we create it. But I agree, if there's a way and a feeling that we're trying to go for, that's the feeling. Now that looks different, I think, for everyone on LinkedIn. Would you say there's anything about content that would help? Do you see content on, does that help with accelerate? What type of results does content help that you've seen?
Yeah, just got to do it, because we always talk about being top of mind, but we always talk about it in a very duplicitous and like scheming kind of way. If you're just posting content just to share with your community, then that's the way that you stay top of mind. If you're educated, if you're sharing articles, if you're making posts about how you handled a certain situation that somebody else in your community might be dealing with, or somebody else that's your connection might be dealing with, that's the way to do it. And then also, you don't have to be the next Gary Vaynerchuk. You don't have to be the next Conor Paulsen either. Just go ahead and share some stuff that's going to be relevant. Don't go ahead and say, if you're dealing with that so-and-so, book a call with me. If you're, join my webinar, if you're feeling like X, Y, and Z, don't do that. Share free material, an article that you wrote, an article that you found interesting, and share that with people. And I'll give you an example of why it worked, or how it worked on me. Somebody hit me up on LinkedIn, and just like you, just like everybody on LinkedIn, I got 5 more messages that day. I didn't respond to it. and then 2 days later, I saw this guy post on about just, it was a Monday. It was a motivational post, and it was very helpful, a lot of value and stuff like that. And then I look back at his message, and he was looking to speak about working at Uptown. It didn't work out, but the point is, I would have never opened that message if I didn't see his very insightful, thoughtful, helpful post. And then I go into my direct messages and I'll be like, I remember that name. I'm down to talk with you because I get the kind of person you're like, which is another way to kind of build a relationship where it's like you don't even have to have a one-on-one to build a relationship. Post a video, post a text post, post an image, post a thought that represents you and how you communicate and who you are. This way, if you do reach out to somebody or somebody reaches out to you and they know how you communicate, and that's going to be a whole nother level of, qualification, if you will. If they booked a call, then they must have heard from you before or liked you, and that's just going to increase your likelihood of starting more relationships. Insane.
I love it. You have so much value here, and I love it. You bypass, and you just have such a condensed way of explaining it. And I hope anyone listening is taking notes, because these are the exact same things that we're doing and learning. And how do we learn something that we both mentioned Chris Arcazo. That's the other magic behind all of the fulfillment, and it's all of this comes back to how do we humanize ourselves? How do we humanize the experience? How do we humanize ourselves? Content can benefit all of us. It doesn't matter what platform you're focused on. But I mean, the ideal would be go to where your ideal clients hang out. Where do they congregate, right? For a lot of us on this conversation, my bet is it's on LinkedIn. And I do think that there are more effective ways and platforms we can spend our time, right? Instagram might be right for some, but to tell you the truth, I think there's a lot more effective ways, as long as we're willing to have not necessarily an open mind, but we understand strategies, not features, right? And that whether it's content or getting consistent quality results, it only happens with consistency. So I love what you're explaining, Bryan. And what I also love is, dude, you just love what you do. You're a happy guy, and I know the people you work with and the clients you get to engage with on a regular basis, I know they're happy when they're getting results, but it makes it that much better when you're a real human, for them. And you come in as a problem solver. And I think that's the other viewpoint. And when we're creating content that can help so much, and we've talked about it, here's another kind of quick gold nugget. When we think about content, I think the easiest way is Bryan, I've learned this from you, it's value-based, right? So how do we provide value? And there's two core ways, and they both start with the letter E. There's entertainment, and that's my personal favorite. That is storytelling to get to a point, right? Prospect Jim, I met 6 months ago. He was dealing with this internal variable, this external variable. We met together. He had this belief. Together, we created this plan, this strategy. Now he's here and he's achieved his solution, right? That's entertainment. And I condensed that, right? Hook, story, offer. Now on the flip side is education. And that's what we're trying to put out on the YouTube channel, and what Chris and I have kind of teamed up, and thanks again for hopping on today, to create this value. For us, it's how do you come from an abundant state, and it's sharing the information we have, right? Strategies, not features. Couldn't agree more. I love it. We have a lot of comments going in, and what I also love is you're getting the social selling that you've been doing for so long, Bryan, shows in the comments, because there are some funny comments in there popping up. So before we
on the comment section too, this is fun.
Yeah, I do want to ask a couple more value-based. What is the one area you're looking forward to most in the next 12 months, just in the online social environment, whether it's LinkedIn or anything else?
The one thing I'm looking forward to in the next 12 months, space. Hell of a question. I'm looking forward to seeing. See, I got to stay biased with LinkedIn just because this is what I do all day long. I'm excited to see kind of where they go, because Chris's monologue that he's given me maybe 7 or 8 times now is that, LinkedIn is kind of in its infancy. And maybe, when he first said it, it was really in its infancy, where every social media company is going to go through so many different iterations, and they're going to find their niche and where they kind of build their social media around, like Instagram became revolved around e-commerce, So then I'm excited to see where LinkedIn kind of finds its niche, Is it B2B sales? Is it B2B sales? I think it's B2B sales. And just seeing kind of how they build it all around that is kind of what I'm excited for on LinkedIn.
I have to piggyback that, right? And I think just as important to the sales is realizing that recruitment is just as big, right? And the people that have really ran LinkedIn for the last decade have been a lot of the recruiters, the top dog recruiters that really know how to leverage it. Now, the fun part is, and a gold nugget here, is that Sales Navigator and Recruiter, both paid features, are pretty dang similar, both very powerful. And so as you start to learn one and you practice, I think there's a huge upside, because often in companies, as you're increasing sales, you need to recruit more too. So I think they can go hand in hand, and that would be something that I'm also excited for. Bryan, I'm glad you share that. How do you spend your time outside of work?
I joined a softball league, which has been remarkable, It's just spending time with other people, meeting new people, playing softball. I love baseball. Follow the Mets, which is, kind of checking myself into purgatory as of late. I like to run. I like to read. Chess has been way high on the list. I'm god awful. Make stupid mistakes all the time, but we learn. I'm learning a ton from those mistakes. And those are kind of like my top 5. I
love it. And I know you golf quite a bit, or it sounds like it. You're one of the few on the team that also golfs. So I love hearing that. And to switch it up on some tone before we hop into Q&A, what type of leader are you in 3 words?
What you need. What you need.
That's good. Clever. That is good. That is good. And I want to ask that because, we talk about so much on the fulfillment side, but what I see on my end is how effective you are at leading and leading teams. And it's exciting as the company's growing and the team's growing and the teams are growing, that you're able to balance so many things and do it sustainably. And that same social selling environment and feeling that we go to create on behalf of our clients, for our clients, for our team, that you're doing it in every aspect of life. And that's something I'm striving to do too, because I think when we have values and we live aligned with them and we're congruent, that magically all of this stuff becomes a lot easier. It's not about having to be in expert whiz at sales and knowing psychology. Absolutely not. It's being a quality human, and then being a quality human to create a human experience, because that's what we're all looking for. I would, all right, so let's hop into some Q&A, and we're going to try to start from the top. So here, we're going to start here with Andrew. Do you see that? If you were advising someone who is new to social selling via various platforms, what is a rough estimate of time spent researching per message sent? So I think from a high level, a way we can say that is, let's say someone that wants to start social selling. We talk about the success you find in it really comes with consistency and being able to do that each day. How much time should they kind of think to invest per day to get some results?
I think 30 minutes is a good amount of time. That gives you time to do enough research on 5 people, send out 5 really thoughtful messages. And then as you get better and kind of pick up your systems, you'll be able to either do more in the same amount of time, or you'll find, I'm really liking this prospecting part of my job. So, I'll dedicate an hour to it and get even more work done. So 30 minutes, because in that time you can, for 5 people, look at their website, look at their LinkedIn page. If they have another social, you can check that out too. Check out the company website. If you just check out those 3 things, what their challenge might be as a person at the organization, then that should be enough time to be able to, craft a thoughtful message to somebody.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I love it. Quick and practical. That's what you're good at. Next one, Bryan. How much of what you've learned delivering pizzas shaped your current views on life?
Now this one's
honestly all your professional success.
This one's a brain buster. I had this one scoped out from the time that we really started this, and it's going to take me some time to answer it. But I think, when you're delivering pizza, it's like if pizzas aren't being ordered, you don't have to go out there and do anything. So you have to find ways. Can I clean this part of the restaurant? Can I help them make a pizza? Can I go help the waitstaff? And that's where that kind of, motivation comes from, to just pick up and do stuff even if you're not asked. So delivering pizza really kind of just changed my life in a way. So thanks for asking that question, Tyler.
I love it. And some of them are questions, some of them are points. I think, Chris, thanks for tuning in. I think it's a couple of the good points, hopefully some value, the 2 E's of content creation, education, and entertainment, right? Education, teaching how-tos. Chris is really good at that, or, screen sharing and showing how you do what you do. The other one is entertainment, value-tainment. How do you provide value through storytelling? And again, facts tell, stories sell. So that's why us humans like hearing stories. And then just strategies over features, right? Our conversations, what we try to focus our time and attention on is how do we work on the business, not in the business. And, with LinkedIn, there's so many powerful features, but it's really the strategies that turn a prospect and someone you don't know into a friend, a professional friend, and hopefully someone that can become a client, right? And someone you can serve and collectively provide more value to the world. And I love, so we do have one more follow-up question. Are there any tools, resources, strategies you've picked up that help identify how a person communicates?
Yes, but it requires a little bit of practice to figure it out. If you speak with the same type of person at a company a lot, you're going to figure out kind of more often than not what kind of tone they have, what kind of temperament they have, how much time they have to spend. Whether they're analytical, whether they're more anecdotal in nature. So it just comes from doing the work. Unfortunately, we have to work. We have to do it. We have to go ahead and figure it out by practicing. But the more exposure you have to it, the more data that you're putting in there, and the more iterations you can make with some data to go off of. So just doing it in practice is what I've found to understand how a person communicates. Also, if you find them on LinkedIn, but you don't find them on Instagram and TikTok, they are going to be a different person than if you barely find them on LinkedIn, find them on Instagram and TikTok. So just keeping in mind those kinds of things. If they comment on stuff, checking that out, see what they comment on and what they're into. If they like stuff, same deal. And just kind of figuring out where they hang out is the best way to figure out how a person communicates. And then it takes that soft skill to be like, where have I seen this kind of communication before, and how have I handled it in the past?
I love that. And my biggest takeaway there is it's got to be consistent, right? People care about consistency. The consistency on the outreach and the iterations, right? That I love that you and Chris are big believers in. Something I'm working on is to lead by practice, right? The best in the world stay the best and continue to get better because they're practicing each day. And especially in the realm of what we're talking about, there's so many things that are moving and changing that can be exciting, but it's having that core strategy that you can build on, right? Not that you're always trying to create a new strategy. You need that foundation, and that comes with consistency. Awesome. So we have some awesome comments coming in. We are going to bring it to a close here. We're going to finish it. Chris always puts in some value. Strategies over features, but execution over all else. If you don't execute a strategy, then it's useless. The more buttons you press, the more you'll learn to help your execution. The practitioners always win. Would you agree, Bryan? And how can people get in contact with you? They got value from this. I know I got a lot. I have notes. I learned things that we haven't even talked about on team meetings yet. But how can people get in contact if they want to get to better understand who you are and what you're doing at Uptown Creation?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you couldn't find me on LinkedIn, I probably should be out of a job right now. So definitely hit me up there. let's start there, and then let's build a relationship and see what happens.
Let's see if anyone can actually get through to you, right? If they can if they can social sell to you. Thanks again, Bryan. I appreciate you for everything you do for the world, for professionals on here, for the clients you help, and for everything you do at Uptown. We'll see you on the inside.
For sure. Thanks for having me.